And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk to them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Know that the Lord your God, He is God, the faithful God, who keeps covenant and mercy for 1,000 generations with those who love Him and keep His commandments. Children are a gift from God. He gives us the responsibility to care for, train, and love them, and finally, the pleasure of releasing them into adulthood, equipped for their God-given purpose. The following is a blessing ceremony to commemorate the importance of taking up the mantle of manhood.
In that story, I did not know that Luke meant bringer of light. And when I was pregnant, I was in a bookstore. And I was walking by those cards that have names. And I happened to catch the name Luke. And written on the card was bringer of light. Wow. So I was like, oh wow. So I don't know why it is that God will identify some of us before we're even born. We have to accept that identity. And we have to walk into that call. But Luke, I'm just thankful that God gave me the opportunity just to be your mom in the years, the seasons when you needed us more. And today I just want to release you into whatever God has for you. And you just seek your Heavenly Father every day.
The power of life and death are in the tongue. On this special occasion, Er's son was blessed through words of affirmation by godly men.
I believe the streets will sing salvation. They'll sing of the new joy they found. I believe the streets will sing salvation, 'cause revival is coming to this town. I believe the streets will sing salvation.
Psalms 145:4. One generation will praise your works to the next and proclaim your mighty acts.
A warrior uses his sword as a representation of the cross. So, son, will you meet me at the foot of the cross?
You know, as a warrior, before he goes into battle, a lot of times he'll use the sword as a representation of the cross. And so one thing I like to do is to put this here, and then if you would, you'll meet me at the foot of the cross. So if you just stay there for a second. Luke, we have all prayed for you, and but the thing about it is, you have to have a desire to have that. You know, you have to have a desire to serve God and acknowledge that. If you have a desire to take in all the blessings that God has for you. I do. Okay. Now that you can take up your sword. Amen.
May the Lord answer you in the day of trouble. May the name of the God of Jacob defend you. May He send you help from the sanctuary and strengthen you out of Zion. May He remember all your offerings and accept your sacrifices. May He grant you according to your heart's desire and fulfill all your purpose. We will rejoice in your salvation, and in the name of our God, we will set up our banners. May the Lord fulfill all your petitions. Rise up, O men of God, and bless your children.
I think one of the most important things to remember as a believer is that when you start to talk about generational things, you're not talking about something that's just an important part of the Christian responsibility list. When you're dealing with generational things, you're dealing with the heart of God. You're dealing with something that's an attribute of God's. God didn't create us in a generational format. Fathers, sons, grandfathers. He didn't do that because he's whimsical and creative. He does things based on his own image. God created generations because God himself is a father and a son. He's a father, he's a son, and he's a spirit. Where the Spirit is sent into our lives that we may cry out, Abba, Father. God created us as generations because that's what's dear to God. When we recognize that, immediately we feel the sensation of a weight of burden. And scriptures begin to come alive to us. Maybe we've just read over scriptures like, raise up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older they will not depart from it. Raise up your children in the admonition of the Lord. These things are so fundamental to the Christian life, but they've almost been forgotten. We have become a charitable organization as the church, dealing with the fact that we have kids. When you get out of high school, especially if you go to college, your odds are 90% that you are not going to return to church. We are dropping the ball generationally. We're losing everything. We lose everything when we do that. The father, the male, has been given a seat of authority both in the household and in the church. Men, we've got to wake up and recognize that the generation coming after us is not looking to us. They're looking to rappers. They're looking to stars on TV shows. They're looking to sources to find meaning that have no meaning. We are the men who God has placed on the earth to direct children in the way they should go. That we can begin to raise up sons that are going to be fathers, that are going to be able to recognize that when God was dealing with Israel, you can remember when Joshua, when he led the children across the Jordan, they come up on the bank of the Jordan on the other side. The priests are still in the water where the water came apart. They go up and God says, have a member of each tribe, a man from each tribe, go back into the river where the priests have stood their ground. Take a stone and bring it up onto the beach of the river. Later, Joshua sets those stones up in Gilgal. And this is what God says. This is what Joshua says, but God through Joshua says, when your children look at these stones, you'll be able to tell them that you crossed over the Jordan on dry land because of the glory of Almighty God, that the ark came across the Jordan on dry ground. It's about telling your children. By not telling our children, what if we spend our Christian lives telling basic, just general congregations? What if we spend our whole lives telling people in our own peer group? What if we spend our whole lives keeping this stuff directed at people who are not really our primary responsibility? Our primary responsibility is to imitate what God has designed us to do, which is to be like Him, which is to be a father, to be a son. We need to be a people that revere those who have gone before us as fathers and who will raise up those coming after us as sons. One of the things that's most important as we, as the church, confront the issue of raising up a generation to come after us, is that we have a tendency to look at biology as a really big deal when it comes to father, son, mother, daughter. But it's interesting that in Romans, God points out to us through Paul that it's not those who are naturally Israel that are the seed. The seed are those who go in the faith of Abraham. It's not biology that makes you a son. It's relationship. We're grafted in as Gentiles to be sons of God. Therefore, when we look to the generation coming after us, we can't be so narrow in our focus that we look at our kids and we say, it's my responsibility. Of course it's our responsibility to raise them up. But what about that orphan? What about that young man who has no father to speak into his life? What about that young woman who needs somebody to do what Paul says we are supposed to do in the book of Titus, where he says, women, raise up these younger women. Teach them. This is something that we have got to recognize, that it's not just about our biological children. It's about those who have no parents to raise them up.